An interesting Burp extension that I like to use sometimes is Response Overview. It's available from the Burp App Store, as you can see right here, and I actually already have the extension installed, and it gives me this tab Overview. So what does this tool do? Well, it passively looks at the HTTP responses from various tools, and it tries to group them by similarity. So why I think this is valuable is it gives you an interface to look at dissimilar responses, right? You can look at responses that are more unique and that are distinct from one another to try and identify interesting functionality or behavior about an application that might lead you down a path to find some vulnerability. So one thing that you can do is you can install the extension, and then a nice handy tool that I can run to populate it with some potentially interesting findings is using Burp's built-in content discovery, or what they call the Discover Content tool, and running that. And you'll see that this is going to send a number of requests trying to discover content. And as it does, we're going to process that with the Response Overview extension, and it's going to build up all of these interesting responses. And you can see the group size is the number of responses that it's parsed that fall within, an acceptable range of difference such that it considers them to be equivalent. And so this response right here, this 404 not found, we're seeing a lot of 404 not founds. It's not a very interesting response, but we can filter, or we can sort here by the group size, and this allows us to scroll through some more unique responses. And just already we can see that we are sending some requests to some endpoints that are returning back errors specifying missing parameters. So these responses might be leaking information about parameters that we can use to interact with those API endpoints. And it can be used in many other ways from this as well. For example, you can use vulnerability scanners to send payloads in addition to attempting to discover content. And sometimes, those payloads will trigger interesting responses from the application, but the scanner itself doesn't have the capability to detect that it's actually done something interesting. And looking at the response overview for unique responses might let you identify those types of responses that a scanner missed, where it's still maybe discovering an injection vulnerability or some other type of vulnerability that it just didn't have the right regular expression or check to be able to identify from the response content. But you being an expert penetration tester can look at that response, and you can make that decision of whether this warrants investigating further. So I recommend giving it a try. It's a very interesting extension. I won't say that I've had a lot of vulnerability leads generated from it, but I like having it, and I like taking a look at it. I think it's quite interesting.